I wasn't supposed to see it. That email wasn't mine to read. It wasn't even meant to exist. But when it landed in my inbox at 9:47 p.m., something inside me whispered, "Open it." I wish I hadn't. It was from Richard Haynes, our CFO. A man whose handshake felt like a contract with the devil. The message was short. We need to bury this before the FDA review. Delay the report. Wipe everything from the test logs. My heart didn't beat. It froze. I read it again and again. The words burned into me. Bury this. Wipe everything. What were they hiding? How many lives were they gambling with? I stared at my reflection in the office window. Just me, Clara Jensen, 35, loyal communications manager, accidental intruder in the company's darkest secret. The screen went black for a moment. I stared at my reflection. Then an unreadable message flashed: access revoked. That was the night I learned. Some truths don't want to be found, and that one email would cost me everything. I told myself it had to be a mistake. Maybe the email was routed wrong, or maybe I'd misunderstood the context, but deep down, I knew. There was no misunderstanding. Bury this. The next morning, the office buzzed with forced cheer. Ethan Ward, my boss, strolled by with his perfect smile and his coffee cup like nothing had happened. "Big day ahead, Clara?" he asked. His tone felt like a test. My inbox was clean. The email was gone. But I had screenshots. Proof. My hands shook as I opened them. Gone too. I didn't delete them. Someone else did. I looked around. Maya was joking with it. Ava was buried in her files. Everyone acted normal, but I could feel it. The silence after a crime. I checked the audit logs. Nothing. The message never existed. It was like the system had rewritten itself overnight. I caught Maya by the vending machine. "Did it wipe any messages last night?" I asked. She frowned. "Not that I know of. Why?" I lied. Just a glitch. But that night, I couldn't stop thinking, what kind of company erases its own guilt in real time? That evening, I stayed late again. Everyone was gone. I kept replaying the email in my mind, the tone, the urgency, the audacity. I typed a single line into my notes. "What is Vicar hiding?" That's when my office lights flickered just once. My monitor blinked, and for a split second, another window opened. A hidden folder I didn't create, titled Internal Comms Threadline, and then it vanished. I walked out of that office knowing something irreversible had started. Outside, the city lights blurred through rain. Every drop on my windshield felt like a warning. I could have turned back then, pretended I'd never seen that email. But the truth was already alive inside me, and I knew it wouldn't let me sleep again. I went to Ethan's office the next morning. I still believed in procedure, in the idea that truth could be handled the right way. He didn't even let me finish. "You must have misread it, Clara. Richard's emails are complex. You don't have clearance for that context." His voice was calm, rehearsed, the same tone you use to talk someone off a ledge. I realized he wasn't trying to explain anything. He was trying to contain it. "Forget the email," he said. "You have a future here. Don't ruin it over nothing." But that word, nothing, lodged in me like a splinter. When people say nothing in a company like Vicar, it always means something they'll do anything to hide. Later that day, HR called me in. "Routine check-in," they said. But there's no such thing as routine when your boss just told you to forget an incriminating email. They smiled too much, offered water, compliments, comfort. Then came the soft interrogation. "Have you felt stressed? Overworked? Any recent misunderstandings with management?" They weren't checking on me. They were building a file. By the end of it, I wasn't an employee anymore. I was a problem to manage. I found Ava in the break room. I'd never noticed how quiet she was before, always watching, listening. Ava, I whispered. Something's wrong. I think they're hiding something big. She didn't look shocked, just sad. You need to be careful what you say here, Clara. People disappear for less. I asked if she believed me. She nodded once, slow. I used to be a journalist. I know what cover-ups smell like. Keep everything off the servers. That was the first time I felt like someone saw me. Really saw me. And that's when I started keeping copies. The following week, the company launched a data integrity audit. Everyone received cheerful memos about transparency, teamwork, cooperation. But every question led back to me. Random selection, they said. System maintenance. I knew better. They were erasing the traces, sanitizing evidence, rewriting history. Maya pinged me privately. Something's off. They're checking your account. That's when I stopped using my work laptop. That's when fear became a habit. One night, I found Ethan in the parking lot. He was on the phone, pacing. She's not going to let it go, he said. Then make her, he turned. Saw me, Clara? Working late again. My throat tightened. I just came to get my bag. He smiled that same empty smile. Good. Let's keep it that way. That was the moment I stopped being afraid of losing my job. I started being afraid of losing myself. I didn't plan to become a whistleblower. It wasn't courage. It was survival. I met Ava that night at a cafe 2 blocks from the office. She spoke quietly, like someone who'd practiced keeping secrets. If they're burying reports, she said, we need documentation. Paper trails, screenshots, metadata. I've already wiped everything. Then we find what they missed. She slid a flash drive across the table. Encrypt it. Use it at home. Never on their network. I didn't ask how she got it. From that night on, every click felt like crossing a line I could never come back from. I started scanning internal folders from home. Not downloading, just reading. The deeper I went, the worse it got. Emails about acceptable casualty thresholds. Memos instructing engineers to delay recalls. They weren't just lying to regulators, they were gambling with human lives. Maya texted me late that night. System flags show someone's accessing old archives. That you? I didn't reply. I knew if I admitted it, she'd be dragged into this too. I met Maya the next morning in the elevator. She looked nervous. Clara, she whispered. It's asking questions about off-site access. They can't trace me, I said. You sure? I wasn't. When the doors opened, Ethan was standing there. He smiled. Ladies? My pulse stuttered. His eyes flicked from Maya to me, like he already knew. The walls felt thinner that day. Ava and I started meeting after hours. Different places every time. Parking lots, library corners. She showed me a spreadsheet that didn't match Vicor's public filings. I've been falsifying test data, she said, replacing failed trial numbers with synthetic results. My stomach turned. I thought of the patients who trusted our devices. We can't take this to our... Eva warned. We take it outside. Outside. That word echoed. Once it's outside, there's no way back in. The night before I planned to back up everything, someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 slow knocks. Then silence. When I looked through the peephole, no one. But when I turned back to my desk, my laptop screen was awake. Files I hadn't opened were glowing. A new message blinked, "Stop digging." I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the dark screen, waiting for it to blink again. I hadn't heard from Ava in 3 days. No texts, no calls, nothing. Her desk was cleared out. HR said she'd been reassigned. But no one could tell me where. The same morning, an email from it arrived in my inbox. Security notice. Your account is under review. I felt the world narrow to a single point. My name, underlined, flagged. I checked the shared drives. The files Ava gave me were gone. Wiped clean. That's when I realized I wasn't hiding from them anymore. They were already inside my life. I went to Ethan's office again. He didn't even look surprised to see me. "Ava Patel?" I asked. "Where is she?" He leaned back, hands behind his head, smiling faintly. "Transferred. Confidential project. You know how it is. She didn't even take her personal things." "Clara," he said softly, "you're becoming obsessed. You need to take some time off." He slid a manila envelope across the desk. Mandatory leave. Inside was a termination notice waiting to happen. That night, I drove to Ava's apartment. The door was unlocked. Inside, drawers were open, clothes gone, like someone left in a hurry. On her kitchen counter, a sticky note, "Don't contact me." No signature. I searched every corner, hoping for a clue. Then I found her old press badge from when she was a journalist, cracked, faded, and tucked inside an empty coffee mug. I realized that then Ava hadn't disappeared. She'd been silenced. The next morning, I got a call from HR. "Clara, we've had reports of inappropriate data access from your credentials. You're suspended pending investigation." I didn't respond. In the background, I heard typing. Multiple people listening, documenting every word. "Do you understand the consequences?" they asked. "Do you?" I said. Silence. Then the line went dead. Minutes later, I was locked out of my company account. Every file I'd saved vanished into nothing. The machine had turned, and I was now the virus. 2 nights later, someone broke into my car. Nothing stolen, just papers scattered. But tucked under my windshield wiper was a single photo of me and Ava from the cafe, printed in black and white. I understood then. They were watching. I sat behind the wheel, shaking, knowing I couldn't run anymore. I had only one choice left. If they wanted to destroy me for telling the truth, I'd make sure the truth spoke louder than they ever could. I copied everything that was left. Corrupted files, partial reports, even deleted fragments. I didn't know what would hold up, only that I couldn't hold it in any longer. I created an anonymous email, sent it to every investigative journalist I could find. Most bounced back. But one, a reporter named Lena Cross, replied in 10 minutes. "Meet me tomorrow." No phones. My hands were shaking. The decision was made. For the first time in months, I felt free and terrified. We met in an underground parking garage, the same kind Ava and I used to whisper in. Lena looked younger than I expected. Calm, fearless. "You sure you want to do this?" she asked. "They killed the truth," I said. "I'm just bringing it back to life." I handed her the flash drive. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. The sound of dripping water, the hum of distant traffic, my pulse in my ears. I didn't realize that moment would be replayed on news broadcasts across the world. The story broke 3 days later. Vickers Systems accused of data manipulation and product safety fraud. My heart raced as I watched the broadcast. Charts, emails, my words quoted anonymously for now. But the moment of vindication vanished fast. My phone started vibrating nonstop. Blocked calls, legal notices, threats. Then came the message from an unknown number. "We know it was you." Within hours, the company issued a statement calling the story false and defamatory. Ethan appeared on national TV, confident as ever, saying Betrayal remains committed to ethical excellence. I watched his perfect smile, his practiced tone, the same man who told me to forget it. Then my photo leaked online. Someone inside released my identity. My inbox turned into a firing squad. Death threats, lawsuits, fake news calling me unstable. I'd lit the fire, and now I was the one burning. I packed what I could fit into a single bag. I left my apartment, deleted my social media, turned off my phone. Outside, journalists camped at my door. Cars I didn't recognize followed me for blocks. The truth was finally out there, and yet it felt heavier than ever. I'd wanted justice, but all I saw now were headlines, noise, chaos. Ava was gone, Ethan was untouchable, and I was radioactive. Still, deep down, I knew if they wanted silence, I'd just given them the loudest sound of their lives. The hearings began 2 months after the leak. Vickers' executives sat in perfect rows, polished and precise. Cameras flashed, pens scratched. The word accountability echoed like a joke. I watched from the back row, uninvited. My name wasn't mentioned, but every fact came from my files. Richard Haynes spoke smoothly. We regret the misunderstandings. Misunderstandings. Hundreds of patients injured, millions in profits concealed, all reduced to a misunderstanding. I realized then the truth doesn't destroy power. It exposes who's willing to protect it. Reporters found me eventually. Clara Jensen. The woman who broke Vicor. They wanted sound bites, not scars. How does it feel to be right? One asked. I almost laughed. Being right felt like losing everything you loved, and still being told you were lucky. I gave them one line. The truth isn't justice. It's just the beginning. The headline the next morning twisted it into whistleblower admits regret. Maya called me for the first time since everything broke. They're deleting servers, she said. They're rewriting internal archives. If we don't preserve what's left, they'll rewrite history. I met her in a quiet co-working space. She'd aged in weeks, fear written all over her face. Are you recording this? She asked. No, I said. I'm remembering it. We stayed there until morning, copying everything we could. 2 weeks later, Maya was gone too. Official story overseas reassignment. The hearings dragged on for months. Executives resigned, lawsuits piled up, investors fled. But Vickers survived, rebranded, restructured, reborn under a new name. I watched it happen from my apartment window. Boxes packed. Eviction notice taped to the door. Whistleblowers don't get parades. We get silence, and sometimes threats. But I wasn't sorry. I'd rather live broke and forgotten than rich and complicit. One night, a stranger left a note under my door. Thank you. My brother's alive because you spoke. No signature. No return address. Just that. For the first time, I cried. Not from fear, but from knowing it mattered. The company won its damage control, but the truth had slipped through their fingers. You can bury files, not consequences. It's been 3 years since Vicor collapsed. I live on the northern coast now. A rented cabin overlooking the water. No neighbors, no headlines, just silence and the hum of the tide. I still check my email sometimes, half expecting another urgent message that changes everything. But there's nothing left to uncover, only memory. Some nights, I wonder if I did the right thing, if truth alone was worth all that it took. Then I remember the note. My brother's alive because you spoke, and I know silence would have cost me even more. I keep a single folder on my laptop. The email. It's not the original, of course. That vanished long ago, but I kept the words I remember. We need to bury this before the FDA review. Sometimes I read it out loud, just to remind myself that it was real, that I didn't imagine it. People think whistleblowers act out of anger. They don't. We act because the truth won't stop whispering until you answer it. I saw Ethan Ward's face on TV last week. He's running a consultancy now, teaching corporations about transparency and ethics. I laughed for the first time in months. The irony was too heavy not to. Some people reinvent themselves. Others just rename their lies. I turned the TV off. I didn't need to hear his voice again. I'd already lived the damage it caused. Sometimes the ocean sounds like static, like the background hum of those late nights in the vicar office. I dream of that night, often 9:47 p.m. The glow of the monitor, the words that changed my life. I used to think truth was a light, something that could burn through lies. But truth isn't light. It's fire. It burns what it touches, even the hands that carry it. This is my story, the email I was never supposed to read, and the secret that cost me everything. They built walls to hide the truth. I tore them down and walked away. I don't know if the world's better because of what I did, but somewhere, someone is alive. Somewhere, a lie is harder to tell. That's enough. The truth didn't set me free. It made me real.